hybrid dilemma,
Right.
right? And I think you talked about how is it that they want to work from home and then they want to have that social capital. If we extrapolate that forward, I mean, if you could consider, I mean, how does Microsoft see this, in terms of its workforce going forward? Do you see this kind of shaping the way how work will be done in Microsoft in future in a certain way? Would you describe that?
Right. I think interestingly for Microsoft, the hybrid works culture really happened pre-pandemic. So it's always been a culture. It's what our whole leadership kind of believe, right? So I think as we come into this pandemic when many companies are forced to think that, hey, can I work remotely? I think a lot of demonstration is, yes, we could. Because we have demonstrated like last 3 years we could. So I think in Microsoft, part of it is we have been in this journey. I think that's where we kind of drive a lot of our portfolio that's more on collaboration. So back to your point, what's different pre or post is it further, like when Minister talks about it, when we look at talent, even if I look at Singapore or we have Asia Pacific that sits in Singapore, our talent doing the role here is not constrained by geography. In fact, I have so many colleagues that might be carrying Asia Pacific, Singapore title, but they are operating in Europe. They could be in India because they need to be with parents the last couple of years. And we see these evolutions become a norm. In the past, you might kind of feel, hey, I need to ask my manager's permission, can I do it? But now we are seeing it's so pervasive that it become a norm. You can have a regional role here, but the person sits in Europe. And I think the case study that Mr. mentioned about collaboration, it need not be synchronous, that we are working together at the same time. Collaboration now has expanded. You can collaborate in different time zone. The collaboration of tools is possible that you can even collaborate in very different time zones without being physically together or being together in a meeting. I think that's the beauty of how it have evolved. And I would say in Microsoft, I see a lot of projects that if I need to bring a sustainability SME, it's so easy for me to reach out a UK colleague that's done it in an engineering company in UK to be involved in the project, and he or she doesn't even need to be here physically. The whole what we call the V-team concept in Microsoft is a norm. It's something that is not an exception. It's so pervasive that it's just part of the culture.
Go back to Moon. Okay, what you struck me is the workforce ready for the future, and you seem to have some doubt about that. So how do you cope with that, Moon? How do you deal with that?
So the way Singtel looks at it, first, I think 1 year ago, probably about just 1 year ago in October last year, we launched our group purpose. Empower every generation. It has a lot of meaning to different stakeholders. To our employees first, what does that mean? That means they are doing purposeful work. They are empowering generations of customers, communities, connecting people, providing services, providing solutions. To the engineers who have been building mobile network, they say, oh, this is another generation of mobile technology. From 2G to 3G to 4G, now I'm doing 5G. Empower the next generation of technology. To our customers, they say, wow, Singtel has provided connectivity to my parents, my grandparents, and now it is to me. And they're helping me to operate from home, with the fiber network, with the mobile network. To our IT services is a new solutions that we're looking at. So creating that North Star for the company is extremely important. It binds everybody together and say, I'm doing meaningful work. Regardless of whether I'm an engineer or I'm a sales staff, I'm a marketing person, I feel good that we have empowered different generations in different countries, in different societies, in different communities. So that's the first thing we did. The next thing we ask ourselves, how do you retain the workforce or encourage people to join you? there's a saying, right? Either you go big or you go home. So I like the word big. What does the big means? It's an acronym for B for belonging, I for impact, and G for growth. So I think if you build a workforce for the future, you need our people to have a sense of belonging, that they are part of the team. And that's why coming back to work is not an option, but it's necessary. Although we provide flexible way of working, but we do want people to come back to have a sense of belonging. They are part of a bigger community.
Thanks.
Impact. People want to do things that have created an impact for the community, an impact for myself, an impact for impact for society. And finally, G for growth. Growth at an organization level, at an individual level. What am I growing? How am I growing? How's the company growing? So I think if we are able to capture this in the hearts and minds of our people, and we position this well, you not only will you be able to attract the talent, the new workforce, as well as motivate and encourage your people to stay with you. So I think, in the new world, Hui Ling just mentioned the Gen Z and the Gen Y, 60-80% of them thinking about changing their job. But I don't think it is only them. Everyone is asking, why am I doing this? What is this for? So I think we need to give them the reason beyond just showing up for work, collecting a paycheck, and going home, because that no longer motivates them. And I don't think they are people who are lazy, especially the Gen Y, Gen Z. They are highly motivated if you give them impactful work, meaningful work, and purposeful work. So I think we have to change. As leaders, we have to start to change our mindset and say, we have to change ourselves in order to accommodate this new workforce.
The question is, are there any detriments, dangers that could emerge in the future of work?
No, I would say the future of work will evolve, right? Obviously, when you talk about technology is enabler, it will evolve. Like for now, if you look at this phase, we talk about it, the work where we had the place now in our today's world become irrelevant. Not that it's 100% irrelevant, it become less critical versus how do we build the work when you define, as in, I don't need to be in this place to do some job. So I'm more positive rather than thinking of detriment, because I feel the possibility of technology has evolved, that the work definition is so broad, is how you want to define it, versus we're confined to say, is it more a physical location? Is work means I can be just doing for Singapore region? Honestly, when I look at talents, a lot of talents and work, I no longer see, do I need to hire people from Singapore to even do some of the work here? Because the world become very broad. And back to your point, ironically, I was just having a conversations with my team. I say in the past, people always go for FTE job. People want full-time employee job. People get nervous if they get contracting job because they feel that's not certain. Ironically, I'm seeing a group of talents coming in and say, I don't want FTE job. On the contrary, because I want more of a contract, because it gives me the flexibility, and I need not work for one. I can work for multiple, because I'm kind of marketing my skills on deliverables. It's not, no longer are we in the old days of era to say job is about 9 to 5, clocking in and going out, right? How many meetings you attend? I see work going, which is what we're trying to evolve, is if it becomes so outcome-based that think of work becomes so borderless, maybe people might not just want to work for one company, so-called. They're selling their capability that can be global, can be virtual. So I'm just more looking at the possibility, on the possibility, because technology has created that, and a lot of people, back to your point, whether a purpose, I think especially in Singapore, I think we are in that situation that some of our next generation might work not because they want to take the material gains that they say, is it a bigger house or bigger car, is how do I fulfill, how do I have more experiential, that I do something, I experience and travel and come back and work. So that definition of future of work has evolved because it's not the traditional definition many of us has live with, right? That, hey, is it job hopping? Is it doing the same job for them or for the next generation future of work? The possibility of technology and the innovations, I would say it will fundamentally could change how work get defined because it's not about employment, right? It could be, I'm just kind of marketing my capability and skill. So not answering your question, I'm more bullish and positive because I feel the world is so exciting that it could evolve, not from the current definition of work.
Thank you. Moon?
Yeah. Thank you, Hui Li, for taking up more time so that I can spend lesser time. So there are three risks, but before I cite them, I think firstly, there is no regrets from any organization to continue to invest in its workforce. So that is given. So I don't see any risk, even to the extent that you invest in them, they leave. Because when they leave, they may be pursuing other aspirations, priorities, but they still leave with a good feeling of the organization have actually prepared them well for the future. So I think there's no risk in investing in your people. The three, I would say that, I won't say detriment, but I'll say risk. First is the price of inaction and slow action. So if organizations are not changing and thinking that what gets me here is going to get me there in the future, I think that's not going to work. So that's the first risk. The second risk is actually IHL not wanting to be ILL. And then Singapore will lose its relevance to be a place that can attract companies like Dyson to position themselves here because our workforce is not good enough. 3, leaders' mindset. If leaders, again, are thinking, why should we change or it's too fast? So play to our advantage. If we move fast in the area of getting our workforce ready for the future, we will continue to lead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together and thank our two panelists, Moon and Hui Li? Thank you very much.